The night air is warm, but not heavy. It moves slowly across the land, touching the quiet fields and low mud walls with a soft, patient breath. Far away, the Nile flows in silence, steady and calm, as it has for longer than anyone can remember. There is no rush here, only stillness, only time. You begin to walk along a narrow path of packed earth. The ground feels smooth beneath your feet, worn gently by many quiet footsteps over many years. On either side, low homes rest close together, their walls shaped from sun-dried mud brick, their surfaces warm from the heat of the day that has only just begun to fade. The village sleeps, or at least most of it does. A small flicker of light glows softly through a doorway ahead. It is not bright. It does not disturb the darkness. It simply exists, steady and calm, like a quiet breath in the night. You move closer. The doorway is low, simple, without decoration. A woven reed mat hangs loosely across the entrance, shifting slightly as the air moves. Inside, the space is small, but it feels full in a quiet, comforting way. This is a home, not grand, not wide, but lived in. The walls are thick, holding in the coolness of the night. The floor is hard-packed earth, smoothed by years of careful sweeping. In one corner, a clay lamp burns with a soft, golden flame, its light flickering gently against the walls. Everything here feels slow. Everything feels settled. A woman sits near the lamp. Her movements are quiet and unhurried. She works with her hands, weaving thin strands of fiber into something useful, something that will be needed in the morning. There is no sense of urgency in her work, only rhythm. Nearby, a child sleeps, curled on a simple mat made of reeds. The child's breathing is soft and steady, rising and falling like the distant river. From outside, the faint sound of night insects drifts in, blending with the gentle crackle of the small flame. Nothing is loud. Nothing demands attention. This is how life moves here. Slowly, softly. You take a moment to look around more carefully. The home is made of only a few rooms, each one close to the other. There are no wide halls or empty spaces. Every part of the house has a purpose. Clay jars sit against the wall, holding water drawn earlier from the Nile. A low wooden stool rests nearby, worn smooth from use. A simple basket hangs from a peg, filled with grains that will be ground into flour when the sun rises. There is no excess, only what is needed. And yet, the space does not feel empty. It feels enough. The air carries a faint smell of baked earth and dried reeds, mixed with something softer, something warm, like grain or bread prepared earlier in the day. The woman pauses for a moment. She listens, not for anything in particular, but simply because the night invites listening. The world here does not rush forward. It waits. It breathes. Outside, the sky stretches wide and dark, filled with quiet stars. Inside, the small flame continues to glow, and the home rests gently within the stillness. The small flame continues to move gently, never in a hurry. Its light leans softly against the walls, then pulls away again, as if it is breathing in its own quiet rhythm. Shadows rise and fall, slow and steady, shaping the space without ever changing it too much. The woman's hands continue their work. Each movement is careful. Each motion is known. She does not need to look closely. Her fingers understand the fibers, the way they bend, the way they hold together. This is work learned over many days, repeated so often that it has become part of her natural rhythm. There is comfort in this repetition. There is calm in doing the same small task again and again without hurry. The air inside the home feels cooler now. The thick mud walls have slowly released the heat they held during the day, letting it fade into the night. The space becomes more restful with each passing moment. Near the doorway, the woven reed mat shifts slightly. A faint breeze moves through, carrying with it the scent of the river and distant plants. It brushes lightly across the floor, touching the jars, the stool, the sleeping child, and then it is gone. Nothing lingers too long. Nothing stays heavy. The home is built to breathe. You notice the ceiling now, made of wooden beams laid across the top of the walls, covered with layers of reeds and packed mud. It is simple but strong. It keeps out the harsh sun during the day and holds in a gentle quiet during the night. Above it, the open sky waits. But inside, everything feels sheltered. Everything feels contained. The child shifts slightly in sleep, turning on one side. The reed mat beneath them makes a faint, dry sound, soft enough that it blends into the stillness without breaking it. The woman pauses again. She sets the woven fibers down beside her. For a moment, her hands rest in her lap. There is no need to rush the work. Morning will come when it comes. She reaches for the clay jar beside her. The surface is cool beneath her fingers. She tilts it slowly, pouring a small amount of water into a simple cup. The sound is quiet, like a gentle trickle over stone. She drinks. Not quickly, just enough. Water is precious, but here, near the Nile, it is also part of daily life. It is carried, stored, and used with care, but without fear. It is something to be respected, not wasted. She places the cup back down. The flame flickers once, then steadies again. Outside, the village remains mostly still. A distant footstep passes along the path, slow and unhurried, then fades into silence once more. Somewhere, far off, a dog shifts in its sleep. These sounds do not disturb the night. They belong to it. You begin to feel the quiet weight of this place. Not heavy, but grounding. A sense that everything here follows a rhythm older than memory. Day will come. Work will begin. But for now, the home remains wrapped in softness. The woman leans back slightly against the wall, her eyes resting, though not fully closed. The lamp continues to burn beside her, its glow steady and warm. Nothing changes quickly here. Everything moves as it should. And the night, calm and endless, holds the small home in its gentle silence. The night stretches on, unbroken and calm. Inside the small home, the quiet settles even deeper, like soft sand slowly finding its place after being disturbed. Nothing resists it. Nothing pushes against it. The stillness simply grows, gently filling every corner. The lamp burns a little lower now. Its flame is smaller, but steadier. It no longer dances as much. It simply rests, giving just enough light to soften the darkness without chasing it away. The woman's breathing has slowed. Her hands, once busy with careful work, now rest loosely in her lap. Her eyes close for a moment, then open again, not fully awake, not fully asleep. This is a kind of rest that comes naturally, without effort. Around her, the home remains unchanged. The clay jars stand quietly along the wall, holding their cool contents. The basket of grain sits undisturbed, waiting for morning. The low stool remains where it has always been, its surface worn smooth by years of use. Nothing here is new, and yet nothing feels old. Everything simply exists as it has for many days before and will for many days to come. The child continues to sleep, wrapped in a simple linen cloth. The fabric is light, soft against the skin, woven carefully by hands much like the woman's. It carries a faint warmth from the body beneath it, rising gently into the cooler night air. A small sound escapes the child's breath. Not a cry, just a soft shift, a whisper of movement, then stillness again. Outside, the breeze returns quieter than before. It moves across the roof, brushing lightly against the reeds and packed mud above. A faint, dry rustle follows it, like a distant whisper that fades almost as soon as it arrives. The house holds steady, built close to the earth, shaped by hand. It does not resist the wind. It accepts it. It lets it pass. You begin to notice how everything in this place is made with care, but also with understanding. The walls are thick, not only for strength, but for comfort. The small openings allow air to move, but not too quickly. The flat roof above serves as another space, another part of daily life when the sun is high. But now, in the quiet of night, all of it rests. Time feels slower here, not because it has changed, but because nothing is trying to move faster than it should. The woman shifts slightly, leaning her head back against the wall. The surface is cool now, the heat of the day fully gone. It supports her without effort. Her breathing matches the rhythm of the night. Slow, even, unbroken. The lamp gives one small flicker, then steadies again, as if deciding to remain just a little longer. There is no need to rush its end. There is no need to hurry toward morning. For now, the home is quiet. The village is quiet. Even the distant Nile seems quieter, its steady movement blending into the silence so completely that it almost disappears. And within this stillness, the small home continues to rest, gently held between the fading night and the distant promise of dawn. The night begins to thin, though very slowly. It does not disappear all at once. Instead, it softens at the edges, as if the darkness itself is gently stepping back. The air changes in a quiet way, becoming just slightly cooler, just slightly lighter. Inside the home, the lamp has grown small. Its flame is now a quiet glow, close to the surface of the oil. It flickers once, twice, then settles again, as if holding on to the last moments of night. The woman remains still. Her eyes are now closed, her body resting fully against the wall. Sleep has come softly, without effort, without interruption. It is the kind of sleep that arrives naturally, carried in by the long, calm hours of darkness. The child continues to rest, undisturbed. The gentle rhythm of breathing fills the small space, rising and falling in time with the quiet world outside. There is no tension here, no sudden movement, only rest. Beyond the doorway, the sky begins to shift. At first, it is almost impossible to see. The deep darkness slowly turns to a softer shade, like charcoal fading into ash. The stars remain, but they begin to lose their sharpness, their brightness slowly dimming. A faint line of pale light forms along the horizon. It is distant, soft, easy to miss, but it is there. The village still sleeps, though not as deeply as before. There's a subtle change, a quiet stirring that moves through the air, almost like a memory of sound rather than sound itself. A bird calls once, just a single note. It does not echo. It does not repeat. It simply appears, then fades back into the stillness. Inside the home, the air feels different now. The coolness remains, but there is a gentle hint of warmth returning, carried by the coming light. It touches the walls, the floor, the simple objects resting in their places. The lamp gives one final flicker. Then, without sound, it goes out. The darkness inside the home does not deepen. Instead, it begins to lift, replaced slowly by the soft gray light entering through the doorway and small openings in the walls. The woman stirs, not suddenly. Just a small movement, a quiet shift of the shoulders, as if her body senses the change before her mind fully wakes. Her breathing becomes slightly deeper, more aware. Her eyes open slowly. There is no alarm, no urgency, only the understanding that the day is beginning. She remains still for a moment, letting the light grow, letting the quiet of early morning settle around her. This pause is part of the rhythm, just as much as the work that will come later. The child remains asleep, wrapped in warmth, untouched by the slow arrival of morning. Outside, the sky continues to brighten. The pale line at the horizon widens, spreading gently upward. Shapes begin to form more clearly. The outline of other homes, the edges of the path, the distant hint of trees near the river. Everything returns slowly. Nothing arrives all at once. Inside the home, the woman takes a quiet breath and shifts forward, preparing for the day, though not yet beginning it. The world is waking, but gently, always gently. The morning light continues to grow, slow and steady. It enters the home without force, slipping quietly through the doorway and small openings in the walls. It does not erase the night all at once. Instead, it gently replaces it, layer by layer, until the darkness becomes a soft memory. The woman sits for a moment longer. Her eyes are open now, but calm, adjusting to the pale light that fills the room. She does not rise immediately. There is no need to hurry. The day will unfold as it always does in its own time. She places one hand lightly against the floor. The surface is cool, smooth from years of sweeping and use. It feels familiar, steady beneath her touch. Slowly, she shifts her weight forward and rises to her feet. Her movements are quiet, practiced, natural. The home, once held in the stillness of night, begins to feel different. Not louder, not faster, but awake in a soft and gentle way. She steps toward the doorway and lifts the woven reed mat slightly, letting more light enter. The air that follows carries the faint scent of damp earth from the riverbanks, mixed with the dryness of the surrounding land. Morning has a different smell, cleaner, lighter. Outside, the village is beginning to stir. A distant figure moves along the path, walking slowly, carrying something balanced carefully in their hands. Another doorway opens somewhere nearby, the soft sound blending into the quiet like a small ripple on still water. The woman returns her attention to the inside of the home. There is much to do, but nothing feels overwhelming. Everything has its place. Everything has its time. She moves to the clay jars resting against the wall. One by one, she checks them, placing her hand against their surfaces, feeling the coolness inside. Water must be managed carefully, even here near the Nile. She lifts one jar slightly, adjusting its position. The sound is soft, a gentle scrape against the floor, then stillness again. Nearby, the child begins to stir. A small movement first, then another. The slow waking of someone who has slept deeply and peacefully. The linen cloth shifts as the child turns, blinking slowly in the growing light. There is no rush in waking, no sudden start, only a gradual return. The woman glances over, her expression calm, unchanged. She does not call out. There is no need. The morning itself is enough to wake the child in time. She moves toward a low grinding stone placed near the wall. Beside it sits a small basket of grain, gathered and stored carefully. She kneels down, her movements steady, and begins to prepare for the first task of the day. Grinding grain is slow work, repetitive, but is also quiet. The stone moves against the grain with a soft, steady sound. Not loud, not sharp, just a gentle rhythm that fills the space without disturbing it. The child sits up now, watching quietly. There is comfort in these sounds, familiar sounds, the beginning of another day that will move just as the last one did, and the one before that. Outside, the light continues to spread across the land. Inside, the home breathes with it, and the day begins slowly, without ever breaking the calm. The soft grinding sound continues, steady and unbroken. It fills the small home in a quiet, comforting way, like a rhythm that has always been there. The stone moves back and forth, pressing the grain in a fine flour. Each motion is smooth, guided by habit rather than thought. The woman does not rush. There is no reason to. Morning is not a race. It is something that unfolds slowly, just like the night before it. The child watches for a while, still wrapped in the softness of sleep. Their eyes follow the movement of the stone, the gentle shift of the woman's hands. the small pile of flour slowly growing with each pass. Nothing feels new, and yet everything feels important. After a moment, the child swings their feet onto the floor. The cool surface meets their skin, sending a quiet awareness through the body. They sit there for a moment, adjusting, listening to the sounds of the home. Outside, more life begins to appear. Footsteps pass by the doorway, unhurried and familiar. A quiet voice speaks somewhere in the distance, low and calm, blending into the morning air. The village is waking, but it does not become loud. It simply becomes present. The woman pauses her work briefly. She reaches for a small clay bowl and gathers some of the freshly ground flour. The texture is soft, almost like fine sand, slipping gently between her fingers. She adds a small amount of water, pouring carefully from one of the jars. The mixture begins to form. Slowly, carefully, she kneads it with quiet strength, pressing and folding, shaping it into a simple dough. The movements are steady, practiced over many days and seasons. Nearby, the child stands and moves closer. There is no need for instruction. The process is already understood. They watch closely, learning without words, just as they have before. The air inside the home begins to change again. A faint warmth returns, carried by the growing sunlight outside. It touches the walls, the floor, the simple objects resting in their places. The coolness of night slowly fades, replaced by the gentle promise of day. The woman prepares a small flat surface for baking. A simple place, nothing elaborate. Just enough space to shape the dough into thin rounds. Each one is pressed gently, turned in her hands, and set aside with care. The child reaches out, touching one lightly. It is soft, warm from the hands that shaped it. The woman allows it, without speaking, without interruption. This is how learning happens here. Quietly, naturally. Outside, the light has fully arrived now. The sky is pale and open, stretching wide above the village. The path is clearly visible, the shapes of homes and people gently defined by the morning sun. Inside, the first bread of the day begins to cook. A soft scent rises into the air, warm and simple. It fills the space slowly, mixing with the earthy smell of the walls and the faint dryness of the reeds above. The child breathes it in. So does the woman. It is a familiar scent, a daily one, and as the bread cooks, the home feels even more awake, even more alive, though still wrapped in the same quiet calm that has never left. The scent of baking bread grows slowly stronger. It does not rush into the air. It spreads gently, like warmth finding its place in a cool room. It settles into the corners of the home, soft and steady, becoming part of the morning itself. The woman moves with patient care. She turns the small flatbreads at just the right moment, pressing them lightly so they cook evenly. The surface beneath them is simple, heated by fire below, shaped by long use and quiet repetition. There is no noise beyond what is necessary. Only the faint sound of movement, the soft shift of dough, the gentle breath of cooking heat. The child sits nearby, watching the process closely. Their attention drifts between the woman's hands and the rising scent. It is a kind of learning that does not need explanation. It is understood through presence alone. Outside the home, the village continues to wake. The light has now fully settled across the land. Shadows are shorter, clearer. The path outside the doorway is visible in detail, each small unevenness shaped by many footsteps over many days. A man passes slowly in the distance, carrying a simple woven basket. His pace is unhurried, as if he is already in step with the rhythm of the day rather than chasing it. Another home nearby releases a thin trail of smoke, rising gently into the sky, disappearing almost as soon as it appears. Inside, the woman places the cooked bread onto a clean surface. It rests there quietly, still warm, still holding the softness of the fire. She prepares a second one, and then another. Each movement is steady. Each step is familiar. There is comfort in the repetition, a calmness that comes from knowing exactly what must be done and how it should be done. The child finally stands and moves closer. They reach for a piece of the warm bread again, this time more carefully. The woman does not stop them. Instead, she simply adjusts the position of the next piece she is working on. A small moment passes between them. No words, just shared understanding. The home feels fuller now, not with noise, but with life. The day has fully entered, and yet the quietness remains, layered beneath everything like something permanent. A clay jar is opened again. Water is poured into a small cup. The sound is soft, like a brief stream over stone. The woman drinks slowly, then offers a little to the child. They both pause for a moment afterward, just standing there, just breathing. Outside, the village has become active but still calm. People move between homes, along paths, toward the river or fields. Each movement feels connected to the land itself, as if no one is separate from the rhythm around them. Inside the home, the final pieces of bread are prepared. They are placed together, forming a small stack, warm and simple, ready for the day ahead. The fire is allowed to settle, not extinguished suddenly, but eased into quietness, as if it too is resting now after its work is done. The woman sits for a brief moment. The child sits beside her. The light fills the room completely now, touching every surface with a gentle clarity. There is nothing rushed, nothing unfinished. Only the beginning of another ordinary day, unfolding exactly as it should, in its slow and peaceful way. The home rests in a soft, mid-morning calm. The fire has quieted, leaving behind only a gentle warmth in the cooking area. The air feels slightly thicker here, touched by the memory of heat and bread, but remains comfortable, steady, familiar. The woman begins to tidy the space, not in a hurried way, but in small, careful motions. She gathers crumbs from the surface, brushes them into a shallow bowl, and sets them aside. Nothing is wasted. Even the smallest pieces have purpose. The child watches for a moment, then helps without being asked. Their hands are smaller, movements less precise, but they follow the rhythm they have learned simply by living here. There is no instruction, only imitation, and that is enough. Outside, the village continues its quiet motion. The sounds are distant but present. A low conversation carried on the wind. The soft rhythm of footsteps on packed earth. The occasional call of someone speaking across a short distance, then fading again into the air. Inside the home, light shifts slightly as the sun rises higher. It moves across the walls, revealing textures that were hidden in the dimmer morning light. The surface of the mud bricks shows subtle patterns shaped by hand and time. Nothing here is perfectly smooth, and that imperfection feels natural. The woman moves toward a storage corner. She opens a woven container and checks what remains inside. Grain, carefully stored. A few dried herbs. Simple items that will be used slowly over time. She touches each one lightly, confirming what is there, what is needed. There is no excess, only what is enough for now. The child sits near the doorway, looking outside. From this position, the world feels larger. The path stretches in both directions, connecting homes, neighbors, and the wider land beyond the village. A soft breeze passes through, brushing against their face, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant water. It is not strong, just present, just enough to be noticed. The woman returns with a small bowl of water and sets it down. She washes her hands slowly, letting the coolness move across her skin. The water darkens slightly as dust from morning work is carried away. She pauses afterward, still breathing evenly. There is no urgency in this moment. The day is active but not demanding. It allows space for pauses like this, for quiet awareness between tasks. The child stands and moves closer again. They look at the woman's hands, then at the bowl, then outside once more. Everything feels connected in a simple, natural way. Home, water, air, light, and movement all exist together without separation. A short silence settles inside the room. Not empty, just calm. The woman begins preparing for the next part of the day, whatever that may be. Perhaps more work near the river. Perhaps tending to materials stored nearby. Perhaps visiting another home. Nothing is fixed too tightly. Life flows gently from one task to another. Outside, the sun continues its slow climb. Inside, the home remains steady, grounded, and quiet in its own way, holding the simple rhythm of daily life as it always has, and as it always will. The light outside grows a little stronger now, settling into the middle hours of the morning. It does not feel harsh. It feels steady, like a slow warmth that spreads evenly across the land. Inside the home, this light softens everything it touches, making the space feel more open, even though the walls remain the same. The woman steps outside for a moment. The woven reed mat shifts as she passes through the doorway, letting the morning air enter more freely. The breeze that follows is dry, carrying the faint scent of sun-warmed earth and distant water from the river. She stands just outside the entrance, still, observing nothing in particular. This is a habit of the day. A brief pause between inside and outside, between the quiet of home and the wider rhythm of the village. The child follows after a moment. They stand beside her, looking out at the path that stretches gently forward. A few figures move in the distance, slow and familiar, each carrying out their own small part of the day. No one is in a hurry. Everything unfolds at a natural pace. The woman adjusts the cloth over her shoulder and begins to walk slowly along the edge of the home. Her steps are light, guided by memory more than thought. The child stays close, matching her pace without effort. Nearby, other homes show signs of life. Smoke rises faintly from a few cooking areas, thin and pale against the sky. A person bends near a water jar, filling it carefully. Another sits in the shade, resting between tasks. It is a shared rhythm, not spoken, just lived. After a short walk, the woman returns toward the home, carrying a small bundle of dried materials gathered from nearby. The child helps by holding one end, careful not to drop anything. Inside again, the air feels slightly cooler, a contrast to the bright sun outside. She places the bundle down and begins sorting it slowly. Each piece is examined, arranged, or set aside for later use. Nothing is rushed. Even simple tasks are given time, as if time itself is something to be respected rather than used up. The child sits nearby, watching again. Their attention drifts between the woman's hands and the quiet objects around the room. A clay jar in the corner, a woven basket hanging from a peg, the soft shadow of the doorway moving slightly as the sun shifts. Everything feels stable. Everything feels known. A small sound enters from outside. Footsteps passing, then fading. A short exchange of voices, too distant to understand clearly, but gentle in tone. The village continues its quiet motion, always present, never overwhelming. Inside, the woman finishes sorting the bundle and sets it aside neatly. She pauses again, just for a moment, breathing in the still air of the home. The child leans against the wall, relaxed now, no longer fully alert, but not asleep either. There is comfort in this middle space of the day where nothing demands urgency. Light continues to move across the floor, shifting slowly toward the center of the room. The home remains unchanged in structure, but alive in feeling, shaped by every small movement within it. And in this steady rhythm, the morning continues to unfold, quietly, naturally, without end or interruption. The midday light settles more fully over the village now. It reaches into every corner it can find, resting on rooftops, paths, and the soft edges of the land. Inside the home, the brightness is gentler, filtered through the doorway and the small openings in the walls. It does not overwhelm. It simply exists. The woman sits near the center of the room for a short rest. Her hands are still now, resting in her lap. The earlier work of the morning has been completed in its quiet way, and for this moment, there is nothing pressing forward. The child lies nearby, half resting, half watching. Their eyes grow heavier as the warmth of the day deepens, not from tiredness alone, but from a natural calm that comes when work slows and silence returns. Outside, the village feels slightly more still than before. Not empty, just softer. People move less urgently now, as if the day itself has entered a slower phase. Some rest in shaded areas near their homes. Others sit quietly, adjusting tools or materials without haste. Inside, the air is warm but stable. The thick mud walls hold the heat in a balanced way, keeping the interior from becoming too sharp or too bright. It feels enclosed but not trapped, safe but open enough to breathe. The woman reaches for a small container of water again. She drinks slowly, then offers some to the child, who accepts without speaking. The act is simple, repeated, familiar. And because it is familiar, it feels calming. A faint sound drifts in from outside. A distant animal call, soft and brief. The rustle of movement near another home. The low sound of something being placed on the ground. None of it interrupts the quiet. It only adds to it, like small threads woven into a larger fabric of stillness. The woman shifts slightly and looks around the home. Everything is in place. The jars along the wall, the baskets hanging neatly, the simple sleeping mat still folded from earlier. Nothing feels out of order. There is a sense of completion in small things. Not finality, just balance. The child closes their eyes for a moment, then opens them again, drifting between awareness and rest. The light on the floor moves slowly, marking the passage of time without announcing it. The woman does not speak. There is no need. The home communicates in quieter ways. Through warmth, through stillness, through the steady presence of shared space. Outside, the sun continues its path across the sky, now higher and steady. Inside, the day rests for a short while, holding its breath between moments of activity, as if waiting gently for what will come next, without urgency, without pressure, only continuation. The quiet of midday slowly begins to shift. It is not a sudden change, but something soft and almost unnoticeable at first. The light outside becomes slightly angled, no longer rising, but beginning its long, slow descent toward the afternoon. Inside the home, time feels just as gentle. The woman rises from her resting place and moves toward a shaded corner. Her steps are unhurried, her posture relaxed. There is still work ahead in the day, but nothing feels urgent in this moment. The child follows after a short pause, staying close. Together, they return to small, familiar tasks. The woman reaches for a woven basket and begins sorting through dried materials again. Some are set aside for later use. Some are adjusted and placed in better order. Everything is handled with care, as if each item deserves its own quiet attention. The child helps in simple ways. Holding a piece, passing a small item, watching closely before repeating the motion. Outside, the village continues its steady rhythm. A figure walks slowly along the path, carrying water in a clay vessel. Another sits near a shaded wall, working with hands in a calm, repetitive motion. The sounds of life are present but softened by distance and heat. Inside the home, the air remains warm but not heavy. The thick walls continue to regulate the temperature, holding back the strongest part of the sun while letting in just enough light to keep the space alive and visible. A faint breeze moves through the doorway. It brings with it the smell of dry earth and something green from farther away, perhaps near the riverbanks or fields beyond the village. The woman pauses for a moment. She listens without focusing on anything in particular. This listening is not about sound alone. It is about awareness. The sense that the world outside and inside are connected through quiet movement. The child sits nearby, now calmer, eyes half lowered. Time stretches in this part of the day. It does not feel empty. It feels open. The woman begins preparing a small task for later use, shaping materials with slow, deliberate hands. Each motion is steady, repeated, and natural, as if guided by memory rather than thought. There is no rush to finish, only continuation. A soft sound from outside briefly enters the room, then fades. The village remains in its gentle afternoon state, neither asleep nor fully active, simply existing in balance with the heat and light of the day. Inside, the home mirrors that same balance. Stillness and movement together. Silence and small sounds together. Everything held in place without effort. And as the afternoon settles deeper, the rhythm of life continues forward in its quiet, steady way, unchanged and unbroken. The afternoon light begins to soften now. It no longer sits directly overhead. Instead, it leans slightly, stretching longer across the ground outside and slipping in at a quieter angle through the doorway. Inside the home, the change is subtle. Shadows begin to shift again, slowly growing in length. The space feels a little cooler in certain corners, while still holding the warmth gathered earlier in the day. The woman finishes her current task and sets the materials aside. Everything is arranged carefully, placed exactly where it should be. There is a quiet satisfaction in small order, in knowing where things belong without needing to think too much about it. The child remains close, sitting on the floor with a relaxed posture. Their attention drifts between the woman and the soft movement of light across the room. The day has reached a gentle pause again, a familiar rhythm of work and rest intertwined. Outside, the village feels steady and calm, not silent but softened. A few figures move along the path, their steps slow and measured. One carries a bundle wrapped in cloth. Another pauses briefly in the shade before continuing onward. The heat of the afternoon is present, but does not press too heavily. Everything moves within it rather than against it. Inside the home, the woman reaches for a small container and checks its contents again. A quiet habit, a quiet responsibility. She adjusts the placement of a few items, making sure everything remains organized for later use. There is no urgency in her actions, only attention. The child watches, then slowly leans back against the wall. Their breathing is even, calm, almost drifting towards sleep again, though not fully. The warmth of the room and the steady rhythm of the day encourage stillness. A soft sound enters from outside, footsteps passing at a distance. A brief exchange of voices, too low to clearly understand. Then silence again. The home absorbs these sounds without disturbance, letting them pass through like wind through reeds. The woman pauses once more. She looks toward the doorway. The light there is softer now, less sharp than before. It carries the feeling of late afternoon approaching, though still far from evening. There is a sense that the day is slowly folding inward, not ending, just easing. The child shifts slightly, eyes closing for a moment. The woman does not interrupt this stillness. She allows it to continue. Inside the home, nothing demands attention. Outside, the village continues its gentle motion. And between them, the air feels balanced, steady, and calm as the afternoon moves quietly forward into the next part of the day. The afternoon grows quieter as it moves toward its later hours. The light outside becomes warmer in tone, less bright and more golden, as if the sun itself is slowly lowering its voice. Inside the home, this change is felt more than it is seen. The shadows stretch further now. They reach across the floor in long, soft shapes, touching the edges of walls, jars, and baskets with a calm, fading glow. The woman sits again near her work area. Her hands rest for a moment before she begins a small task of repair. A woven item that needs attention, something simple and familiar. Her fingers move with patience, guiding each strand back into place. There is no rush in fixing what is already useful. Only care, only maintenance of what will be needed again tomorrow. The child remains nearby, quieter now. Their earlier alertness has softened into rest. They sit with their back against the wall, eyes half closed, listening to the gentle rhythm of movement inside the home. Outside, the village continues in its slow afternoon pattern. A distant figure passes along the path, casting a long shadow that moves across the earth like a quiet reflection. Another home releases a faint sound of activity, then returns to stillness. The air feels slightly cooler than before, not by much, but enough to notice. The woman pauses her work and gently sets the woven piece aside. She reaches for water again, drinking slowly. The motion is unhurried, familiar, part of a rhythm repeated throughout the day without needing thought. The child follows the same action after her, taking a small sip and then resting again. There is comfort in repetition, comfort in knowing what comes next without needing to ask. A soft breeze moves through the doorway. It carries with it the changing scent of the land, no longer the sharp brightness of midday, but something softer, more settled. The air of late afternoon beginning to gather. The woman looks toward the entrance for a long moment. She does not speak. There is nothing to say. The day continues on its own. Inside, the home feels steady, as if it is breathing slowly along with the land outside. The objects in the room remain still and familiar. The jars, the baskets, the woven mats, all resting in their places as they have for many days before. The child leans further into rest now, almost asleep. The woman does not move to disturb them. Instead, she sits in quiet stillness, letting the afternoon pass naturally around her. Outside, the sun continues its slow descent, unseen but felt in every changing shadow. And the world remains calm, moving gently forward without urgency, as if time itself has learned to walk quietly through this place. The late afternoon settles in with a deeper kind of calm. The light outside is no longer bright or sharp. It has softened into a warm, slanting glow that stretches across the land in long, quiet lines. Everything it touches seems slower, as if the world itself is taking a slower breath. Inside the home, the air feels slightly cooler now. The thick mud walls begin to hold the memory of the day's heat, slowly releasing it in a gentle, even way. There is no sudden change in temperature, only a gradual easing, like the world relaxing after a long stretch of stillness and work. The woman continues her small repair work for a time. Her hands move steadily, carefully guiding each piece into place. She pauses often, not out of hesitation, but out of patience. Each moment is allowed to complete itself before the next begins. The child is now fully resting. Their body is still, their breathing soft and regular. Sleep has arrived without effort, as it often does in this part of the day when warmth and quiet combine in a gentle balance. Outside, the village also begins to slow. Movement still exists, but it is less frequent. Fewer footsteps pass along the path. Fewer voices drift through the air. Even the distant sounds seem to rest between moments, as if the entire world is pausing more often. The woman finally sets her work aside. She places the woven piece neatly with the others, aligning it carefully as if preparing it for tomorrow. There's a quiet sense of completion in this simple act. She stands slowly and walks toward the doorway. The light there's golden now, soft and low. It touches the threshold without force, resting there like a quiet presence waiting to be acknowledged. She steps just outside. The air feels different again. Softer, still warm, but no longer intense. The land beyond the home stretches quietly, its shapes more defined in the long shadows. Paths, rooftops, and distant figures all seem calmer, as if they belong to the fading rhythm of the day. She remains there for a moment, not moving, not speaking, just observing the slow change of light across the village. Then she turns and returns inside. The home receives her like it always does, without change, without reaction, simply continuing to exist as a steady space between outside and inside. The child remains asleep. The room remains still, and the afternoon continues to drift toward evening in its slow, quiet way, carrying everything gently forward without breaking the calm that has filled the entire day. The evening begins to arrive without announcement. It does not come quickly or sharply. Instead, it gathers slowly at the edges of the land, as if the day is gently folding itself inward, preparing to rest. Inside the home, the light changes again. The golden tones soften into deeper shades, less bright, more muted. Shadows grow longer and thicker, stretching across the floor and resting against the walls like quiet shapes that have always belonged there. The woman moves with unhurried care. She begins preparing the home for the evening hours. Simple tasks, small adjustments. She checks the stored items once more, ensuring everything is in place. She gathers what will be needed for the night and sets it within easy reach. Nothing is rushed. Everything is familiar. The child remains asleep for now, still wrapped in the calm of late afternoon rest. Their breathing is steady, blending with the quiet rhythm of the room. Outside, the village begins to slow even further. The sounds of movement grow fewer. A final few footsteps pass along the path, then fade. A distant voice calls briefly, then disappears into the settling air. The world feels as though it is gently lowering itself into stillness. The woman pauses near the center of the room. She listens, not for anything specific, just for the feeling of transition. The air inside the home is cooler now, carrying the faint memory of the day's warmth, but no longer holding its intensity. It feels balanced again, steady and calm. She moves toward the doorway. The outside world is dimmer now, touched by the early colors of evening. The sky holds soft gradients of fading light, and the land below begins to lose its sharpness, becoming more gentle in shape and tone. She stands there for a moment, still, breathing. Then she returns inside and gently closes the reed mat across the doorway, allowing the home to become more enclosed, more private, more quiet. The child stirs slightly, but does not wake. The woman prepares a small area for resting. Simple mats are arranged. A clay lamp is ready, but not yet lit. Everything is placed with quiet intention, as if the home itself is being guided towards sleep. There is no conversation, no urgency, only preparation for stillness. Outside, the last light of the sun fades further, slipping below the horizon. Inside, the home begins to darken softly, waiting for the gentle return of the flame that will carry it through the night once again. And the day, now nearly complete, rests in a final calm between light and darkness, as everything slowly settles into evening silence. The evening begins to arrive without announcement. It does not come quickly or sharply. Instead, it gathers slowly at the edges of the land, as if the day is gently folding itself inward, preparing to rest. Inside the home, the light changes again. The golden tones soften into deeper shades, less bright, more muted. Shadows grow longer and thicker, stretching across the floor and resting against the walls like quiet shapes that have always belonged there. The woman moves with unhurried care. She begins preparing the home for the evening hours. Simple tasks, small adjustments. She checks the stored items once more, ensuring everything is in place. She gathers what will be needed for the night and sets it within easy reach. Nothing is rushed. Everything is familiar. The child remains asleep for now, still wrapped in the calm of late afternoon rest. Their breathing is steady, blending with the quiet rhythm of the room. Outside, the village begins to slow even further. The sounds of movement grow fewer. A final few footsteps pass along the path, then fade. A distant voice calls briefly, then disappears into the settling air. The world feels as though it is gently lowering itself into stillness. The woman pauses near the center of the room. She listens, Not for anything specific, just for the feeling of transition. The air inside the home is cooler now, carrying the faint memory of the day's warmth, but no longer holding its intensity. It feels balanced again, steady and calm. She moves toward the doorway. The outside world is dimmer now, touched by the early colors of evening. The sky holds soft gradients of fading light, and the land below begins to lose its sharpness, becoming more gentle in shape and tone. She stands there for a moment, still, breathing. Then she returns inside and gently closes the reed mat across the doorway, allowing the home to become more enclosed, more private, more quiet. The child stirs slightly, but does not wake. The woman prepares a small area for resting. Simple mats are arranged. A clay lamp is ready, but not yet lit. Everything is placed with quiet intention, as if the home itself is being guided towards sleep. There is no conversation, no urgency, only preparation for stillness. Outside, the last light of the sun fades further, slipping below the horizon. Inside, the home begins to darken softly, waiting for the gentle return of the flame that will carry it through the night once again. And the day, now nearly complete, rests in a final calm between light and darkness, as everything slowly settles into evening silence. Night returns fully now, not as something sudden, but as something that gently completes its arrival. The darkness outside is deep, but not heavy. It feels natural, like a soft covering placed carefully over the land. The village is no longer visible in detail. It becomes a collection of quiet shapes resting under the sky. Inside the home, the small lamp remains the only source of light. Its flame is steady, low, and warm. It does not try to fill the entire room. It simply holds a small space of comfort within the darkness, enough for the night to feel safe and familiar. The woman sits close to the sleeping area. Her posture is relaxed now, no longer focused on work or preparation. The day's tasks are complete in their simple, quiet way. Nothing more is expected from this moment. The child is fully asleep. Their breathing is slow and even, a steady rhythm that blends into the silence of the room. The fabric around them rises and falls gently with each breath, like a soft echo of the night itself. Outside, the wind moves faintly. It passes across the rooftops and along the narrow paths between homes, but does not disturb anything. It is light, almost careful, as if it understands that everything is resting. The woman adjusts her position slightly. She leans back against the wall, letting the support hold her in place. The surface is cool, grounding, familiar. It carries the memory of many days, many nights, all blending into one continuous rhythm of life. The lamp flickers once, then steadies again. There is no urgency in its light. It will burn for as long as it is needed, and then it will fade naturally, just as the day did. The woman's eyes grow heavier, not from exhaustion alone, but from the natural pull of night, the same pull that guides everything in this home toward rest. She looks once toward the child, still sleeping, still calm. Then she looks toward the small space of light in the room. Everything is in place. Everything is as it should be. Outside, the world is quiet in its deepest form now. Not silent in absence, but silent in presence. A silence that feels complete, whole, and unbroken. Inside, the home holds its final moments of wakefulness. The lamp continues to glow. The woman's breathing slows, and the night settles more deeply around them, wrapping the home in a steady, peaceful stillness that carries no tension, no urgency, only rest slowly approaching from every direction. The night deepens further, becoming more complete in its stillness. Outside, there are no clear movements anymore, only the quiet presence of darkness resting over the land. The village feels distant, almost like a memory held gently beneath the sky. Inside the home, the lamp continues its quiet work. Its flame is smaller now, but it does not weaken in spirit. It burns steadily, casting a soft circle of light that touches only what is near. Beyond that circle, the room fades into calm shadow. The woman remains seated near the wall. Her body is still, her breathing slow and even. There is no more effort in her posture, no remaining tension from the day. Everything is softened into rest. The child sleeps without change. Deep, uninterrupted, peaceful. Their presence fills the room in a quiet way, not through sound or movement, but through the simple fact of being there, safe and settled. A faint sound passes outside. It is not distinct. It does not carry meaning. It is simply the night shifting slightly, like air moving through distant spaces. It comes and goes without notice. The woman lowers her gaze. Her eyelids grow heavier. The warmth of the lamp, the stillness of the home, and the steady rhythm of sleep around her begin to draw her inward. There is no struggle against it, only acceptance. She adjusts her position one final time, leaning more fully against the wall. The surface supports her gently, as it has done through the entire day. The lamp flickers once more, a small, delicate movement of flame. Then it steadies again, as if choosing to remain just a little longer. Time feels less defined now. There is no clear sense of beginning or end within this moment. Only continuation, only quiet presence. The home feels enclosed in a calm that is both physical and emotional. The thick walls, the soft floor, the still air, all working together to hold the night gently in place. The woman's breathing slows further. Her awareness softens, drifting between wakefulness and sleep. The child remains unchanged, deeply resting. And the lamp, small and patient, continues to glow as the last active presence in the room. Outside, the night remains vast and quiet. Inside, it becomes close and gentle. And everything settles into a shared stillness that feels complete, as if nothing more is needed for this moment to exist exactly as it is. The night now feels fully settled, as if even time itself has slowed to a near standstill. Outside, the world is wrapped in a deep, even darkness. Not empty, but complete. The land, the paths, the distant edges of the village all exist beneath it in quiet balance. no longer needing to be seen in detail. Inside the home, the lamp continues to burn. Its light is very soft now, almost delicate. It no longer pushes against the darkness. Instead, it simply rests within it like a small, steady presence that exists only because it is needed. The woman is nearly asleep. Her head rests lightly against the wall, her body fully relaxed. There is no remaining effort in her posture. Every part of her has softened into the stillness of the night. Her breathing is slow and quiet, even, unbroken. The child remains in deep sleep, unchanged since earlier, their rest undisturbed by anything around them. The small sounds of the night do not reach them in any meaningful way. They remain fully within their own quiet world. The lamp flickers gently, once, then again. A slight movement of air passes through the room, almost unnoticeable. It brushes against the flame, causing it to bend and recover, as if breathing softly in response. The woman does not react. She is already too close to sleep to follow small changes in light or sound. Everything around her feels distant now, even the room itself. Not in a disconnected way, but in a softened way, as if the edges of awareness are slowly dissolving. The home remains still. The walls hold their steady shape. The floor stays cool and firm beneath everything. Nothing changes quickly here. Nothing needs to. Outside, the night continues without interruption. No urgency, no movement that demands attention. Only the quiet presence of the world resting under the sky. The lamp begins to lower slightly in brightness, not yet going out, but preparing in its own quiet way. The woman's final thought of wakefulness fades gently. There is no clear transition, only a soft slipping into rest. The child breathes steadily. The room remains calm, and the home, small and simple, rests within the larger silence of the night, holding everything in a quiet balance where nothing is missing and nothing is required. Only stillness continuing forward without end. The lamp's flame is now very small. It moves gently, as if conserving the last of its strength, staying alive only because the night still needs a touch of light within the home. Everything else has grown quieter. The woman is now fully resting. Her body is still, her breathing deep and even, blending completely into the silence of the room. There is no separation between her and the stillness anymore. She has become part of it, just as the child has long been part of sleep. The child remains unchanged, deep in rest, untouched by time, untouched by movement, held safely in the softness of the night. The home feels completely settled now. No more preparation, no more tasks, no more waiting. Only the steady presence of night continuing to unfold. The lamp flickers once again, a small, fragile movement of light. It bends slightly, then returns upright, as if resisting the final pull of darkness just a little longer. Outside, the world is at its quietest point. The village is no longer active in any visible way. It exists only as presence, not motion. Even the wind feels distant now, passing lightly without direction. Inside, the air is still, not heavy, not empty, just still. The walls of the home hold this stillness gently, as they always have, as they always will. They do not change with the hour. They simply remain steady and patient. The lamp begins to dim further. Its glow softens into a faint, warm point, barely lighting the immediate space around it. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. Everything is held in balance. And then, slowly, the flame weakens once more. Not abruptly, not suddenly, just gently fading, as if it understands its time is nearly complete. The room darkens slightly, but not completely. There's still a softness left behind, a memory of light that lingers in the air and on the walls. The night continues to hold the home, quiet, steady, endless in feeling. And within that quiet, everything remains at rest, as if the world itself has finally stopped moving for a moment, allowing nothing but calm to exist. The lamp now burns at its smallest point, a faint glow, barely holding its shape, as if it is resting more than it is actively burning. The light is no longer strong enough to define the room clearly. Instead, it only gently suggests where things are. The woman remains in deep sleep. Her breathing is soft and steady, almost indistinguishable from the stillness around her. There is no movement in her body now, only the quiet presence of rest that has fully taken over. The child sleeps just as deeply, curled and still, completely at ease, untouched by anything outside their small world of warmth and quiet. The home feels fully absorbed into the night, not dark in a harsh way, but in a complete and natural way, as if darkness is simply the state everything has returned to. The lamp flickers again, a small, fragile motion. It holds for a moment longer, then weakens slightly, as if acknowledging the quiet inevitability of the night's progression. Outside, there's almost nothing to hear. The village is silent in its deepest form, not because sound is absent, but because nothing remains active enough to create it. Even the air feels still. Even time feels softened. Inside, the last glow of the lamp continues to fade gradually. It does not rush. It does not resist. It simply lowers itself into smaller and smaller presence, like a breath slowly letting go. The room becomes darker, but still safe, still familiar. The shapes of the home are no longer clear, but their presence is understood through memory and familiarity rather than sight. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. Everything is resting in full completion now, and the lamp, once the center of warmth and light, becomes only a faint reminder of what was, holding on for just a little longer before it too becomes part of the silence. The night continues without change, deep, even, endless in its calm. The lamp's glow is now barely visible. It is no longer a flame in the usual sense, but a faint warmth of light, almost like a memory still trying to remain in the air. The room is mostly dark now, but not unfamiliar. Everything inside it still has a place, even if it cannot be clearly seen. The woman sleeps deeply. Her body is fully at rest, no longer aware of the room, the light, or the passage of time. Her breathing continues in a slow, natural rhythm, steady and uninterrupted. The child remains just as still, small, peaceful, and completely settled into sleep, as if the night itself has gently wrapped around them and decided not to let anything disturb them. The home is now fully quiet, not just in sound, but in feeling. There is a sense that everything has reached its final stage of the day. No more tasks remain. No more movement is expected. Only rest continues. The lamp flickers very faintly again, a last delicate pulse of light. It does not rise. It does not hold. It simply exists for a brief moment, then softens further, like something slowly releasing its final breath. Outside, the night feels deeper now, not because it has changed, but because everything within it has become still enough to notice its depth. The village is silent in a complete way. No distant footsteps, no shifting light, only the presence of sleeping homes, each holding their own quiet world within. Inside, the last trace of the lamp continues to fade. The glow is now so soft that it no longer defines shapes, only warmth in the air where light once was. The woman does not move. The child does not stir. Everything is held in a steady balance of rest, and the lamp, once a center of evening life, becomes almost indistinguishable from the darkness around it, slowly blending into the same quiet that fills the entire home. The night remains, gentle, still, unbroken. The final glow of the lamp is now almost gone. It no longer shapes the room in any clear way. It only lingers as a very soft presence, like warmth left behind after a flame has already stopped speaking. The home is now mostly dark, but it is not unfamiliar darkness. It is the kind that has been lived in, accepted, and understood. The kind that feels natural rather than uncertain. Everything inside it still has its place, even if sight no longer defines it. The woman sleeps without movement. Her breathing remains steady, slow, and calm, blending into the quiet rhythm of the night, as if it has always belonged there. The child remains deeply asleep, small, still, and peaceful, untouched by time, held in complete rest. Outside, the world is completely quiet now. The village no longer shows any signs of activity. No sound carries. No light changes. It exists in full stillness beneath the wide night sky. Inside, the last trace of the lamp continues to weaken. There is no longer a clear flame, only a faint suggestion that something once burned here, something warm and steady that guided the evening into rest. That suggestion begins to fade as well, slowly, naturally, without resistance. The room does not change suddenly when the light disappears. Instead, it simply becomes fully dark in a way that feels complete and expected, as if this was always where it was meant to return. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. There is no disruption, no shift, no reaction. Only continuation of sleep. The home now rests entirely in darkness, but it is not empty. It is full in a quiet way. full of memory, full of presence, full of stillness that has settled into every corner. Outside, the night continues its long, gentle stretch across the land. Inside, everything remains calm and unmoving, as if the entire world has agreed to pause together for a moment that has no end. Only quiet existence carried forward in peace. The lamp has now fully faded. There is no visible flame left, only the absence of light where it once gently rested. The room is completely dark, but does not feel unfamiliar. It feels like a natural return, as if the home has simply settled back into its original state. The silence deepens slightly, not by becoming louder or heavier, but by becoming more complete. Every small trace of movement, every faint sound, every shifting breath of air seems to belong perfectly to the stillness now. The woman remains in deep sleep. Her body is fully relaxed, no longer holding any awareness of the day or night. Her breathing continues evenly, steady as a quiet rhythm that does not need attention to continue. The child sleeps just as peacefully, small, calm, and completely at ease. Their presence adds a quiet warmth to the darkness, even though nothing can be seen. Inside the home, everything is now guided only by memory and familiarity. The walls are still there, holding their shape. The floor remains steady beneath. The object placed throughout the room still rest in their positions. Nothing has changed, only the ability to see it has softened into absence. Outside, the night continues without interruption. There is no visible movement in the village, no sound that stands apart from silence. It is as if the entire land has entered the same state of rest, sharing a single calm breath. Time feels less defined here. It does not move forward in noticeable steps. It simply exists, gently passing without marking itself. Inside, the home remains still. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the darkness holds them both gently, without pressure, without tension, without end. Everything continues in a steady quietness, where nothing needs to happen and nothing needs to change. Only the soft presence of night carrying on, unbroken and complete. The darkness inside the home remains steady and complete. It does not shift or change anymore. It simply stays like a quiet blanket resting over everything that was left behind by the day. The air feels still in every direction, without pressure or movement. The woman sleeps deeply. Her breathing is calm and slow, so natural that it feels like part of the home itself. There is no awareness of time, no awareness of space. Only rest, continuing without interruption. The child remains just as still, small and peaceful in sleep, their presence quiet but steady, as if they have always belonged to this moment of silence. Outside, the world is fully at rest now. The village no longer carries any visible activity. No faint light, no distant motion, no sound that separates itself from the night. Everything has softened into a shared stillness. Inside, nothing changes. The home holds its shape in darkness. The walls remain firm, The floor remains steady, and the simple arrangement of objects continues exactly as it was left. There's a sense of completeness here, not of ending, but of continuation without disturbance. The kind of stillness that does not require attention to exist. Time feels distant now. It is no longer something that moves clearly. It becomes something that simply passes without marking itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home continues to rest in a calm that feels both deep and familiar, as if it has always known this quiet state and will always return to it again. The night remains wide and unbroken outside. Inside, everything is held gently in place, carried forward by silence alone, with nothing required and nothing missing, only stillness continuing softly through the darkness. The night holds steady, unchanged and complete. Inside the home, there is no light, no motion, and no sound that separates itself from the silence. Everything is settled into a deep, even calm that feels both simple and natural. The woman sleeps without movement. Her body remains fully relaxed, resting in the quiet support of the home. Her breathing continues in a slow, steady rhythm, as if time itself has become softer around her. The child remains asleep as well. Small and still, their presence adds a quiet sense of life to the darkness, though nothing about them moves or shifts. Outside, the world continues in its own stillness. The village is no longer distinguishable in detail. It exists only as a quiet presence beneath the night sky, fully at rest, sharing the same calm as the home. There is no wind strong enough to notice, no sound that rises above silence, only a deep, even quiet that stretches across everything. Inside, the home feels unchanged. The walls remain steady, the floor remains firm, and every object inside continues to rest exactly where it was placed. Even without light, the space feels known, familiar, complete. Time no longer feels measured. It passes without direction, without urgency, without notice. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home continues to exist in a state of full rest, as if it has gently closed its eyes along with them. The night remains constant outside, wide and endless. Inside, everything is held in a soft, uninterrupted stillness that continues forward without effort, without change, and without end. Only quiet presence carried gently through the darkness. The night continues in its deepest calm. There is no light now, no flame, no glow, only darkness that feels complete and even, as if it has naturally settled into every corner of the home. Inside, everything remains still. The woman sleeps in quiet rest, her breathing steady and unbroken, fully absorbed into the softness of the night. The child sleeps just as peacefully. No movement, no sound, only the gentle presence of rest that fills the small space they share. Outside, the world is unchanged. The village lies under the wide sky, silent and unmoving. There are no signs of activity, no distant movement that separates itself from the stillness. Everything feels evenly quiet. The air itself feels calm, not heavy, not empty, just still in a way that allows everything to exist without interruption. Inside the home, the darkness feels familiar. It does not press in. It does not feel unknown. It simply exists as the natural state of night, holding the space gently and evenly. The walls remain steady. The floor remains firm. The objects inside the home are unchanged, resting exactly where they were left, as if the entire space has agreed to remain frozen in calm continuity. Time feels distant now. It does not mark itself in moments or movement. It simply flows without notice, without weight. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains in a full state of rest, quietly sharing in the silence of the night that surrounds it completely. There is no change coming, only continuation, only stillness, only the soft presence of night holding everything gently in place as the world rests without end. The night remains deep and unbroken. Nothing within the home shifts or changes. The darkness is complete now, settled fully into its place, as if it has always belonged here. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and even, steady as a quiet rhythm that does not need to be heard to exist. There is no movement in her body, no sign of waking, only rest continuing without interruption. The child remains just as still, small and peaceful, wrapped in the same calm stillness that fills the entire space. Their presence is quiet, but it carries a gentle warmth that belongs naturally to the home. Outside, the village remains silent. No footsteps pass along the path. No voices rise or fall. The land itself feels at rest, as if nothing within it is moving enough to be noticed. The air does not shift. It remains soft and still, holding the night in place without change. Inside the home, everything feels known, even in darkness. The walls stand firm and familiar. The floor remains steady beneath everything. The simple objects that fill the space continue to rest where they have always been. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels uncertain. Time moves quietly, not marked by sound or light, but by the slow, natural passing of the night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home continues to rest in complete stillness, held gently within the wider silence of the night. There is no beginning here, no ending, only the quiet continuation of rest, stretching forward without interruption, as the darkness remains soft, steady, and endlessly calm. The night continues to stretch gently onward. Nothing inside the home changes in any noticeable way. The darkness remains even and complete, resting softly over every surface, every corner, every quiet space. The woman sleeps without movement. Her breathing remains steady, calm, and slow, like a rhythm that belongs to the night itself. There is no tension, no restlessness, only deep and uninterrupted rest. The child remains just as peaceful, still and quiet, Their small presence blends fully into the calm of the room, as if they are part of the stillness rather than separate from it. Outside, the world remains silent. The village rests beneath a wide sky, unmoving and undisturbed. No sound rises above the quiet, and no motion breaks the stillness that has settled across the land. The air is unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, the darkness feels complete but not empty. It carries a sense of familiarity, of something known and trusted. Even without sight, the space feels whole, as if every object, every surface, every detail remains exactly where it should be. Time continues to pass, but without shape. There are no clear moments, no noticeable shifts, only a quiet flow that moves forward without being felt. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains at rest, held gently within the quiet of the night, where nothing is required and nothing is missing. The stillness continues, unbroken, endless in feeling, as the night carries everything softly forward, without change, without sound, and without any need for it to be otherwise. The night remains calm and unchanging. Inside the home, the darkness feels soft and steady, as if it has fully settled into its place and chosen to remain without movement. Nothing shifts, nothing calls attention to itself. The woman continues to rest deeply. Her breathing is slow and even, rising and falling with quiet consistency. There is no sign of waking, no small movement, only the calm presence of sleep. The child remains just as still. Their small form is peaceful, untouched by any disturbance, held gently within the same steady quiet that fills the room. Outside, the village remains completely silent. No footsteps pass, no voices drift, no sounds rise above the deep stillness. The land feels as though it is resting entirely, with nothing left to do until the morning slowly returns. The air does not move. It remains balanced and calm, neither warm nor cool in any strong way, simply present. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls stand firm and quiet. The floor remains steady beneath the sleeping bodies. The simple objects within the room remain exactly where they were left, unchanged and undisturbed. Time continues forward without being noticed. It does not feel like it is passing quickly or slowly. It simply exists, moving gently without marking itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains wrapped in a deep and complete stillness, where nothing needs to change, nothing needs to begin, and nothing needs to end. Only the quiet continuation of the night remains, soft and endless, carrying everything forward in a calm that feels permanent and whole. The night continues, deep and steady. Nothing inside the home has changed. The darkness remains soft and complete, resting gently over everything without weight or pressure. The woman sleeps in the same calm stillness. Her breathing moves quietly, slow, and even, as if guided by the rhythm of the night itself. There is no movement in her body, no shift in her rest. The child remains peaceful, still, and quiet. Their presence blends into the silence of the room, adding a soft sense of warmth to the stillness that surrounds them. Outside, the village remains fully at rest. No sound rises. No movement passes. The land feels suspended in a quiet moment that stretches on without interruption. The air remains unchanged, still, balanced, gentle inside the home. The space feels familiar even in complete darkness. The walls hold their shape. The floor remains steady. The simple objects rest exactly where they belong, unchanged and undisturbed. Nothing feels uncertain. Nothing feels out of place. Time continues to pass without being noticed. There are no signs of its movement, no clear markers, only the quiet continuation of night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains in full rest, held gently within the calm of the night, where everything exists in a steady, unbroken stillness that carries on without end. The night remains unchanged, deep and steady in its quiet presence. Inside the home, the darkness feels complete, resting softly over every surface without interruption. It is no longer something noticed. It simply exists, natural and familiar. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and even, steady as a calm rhythm that does not shift or break. There is no movement in her body, only rest that is fully settled. The child remains just as peaceful, still and quiet. Their presence rests gently within the same stillness, as if the night itself is holding them without effort. Outside, the village remains silent. No footsteps move along the path. No voices drift through the air. The land feels entirely at rest, as if nothing within it is awake enough to disturb the calm. The air is still, soft and balanced, without any noticeable change. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls stand firm. The floor remains steady. The objects inside the space rest quietly, unchanged, undisturbed. Nothing shifts. Nothing calls attention. Time moves quietly forward, but without form. There is no sense of passing moments, only the continuation of night, stretching gently without beginning or end. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, wrapped in a deep, quiet stillness that continues without interruption, holding everything gently in place as the night carries on. The night continues, steady and unbroken. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and complete, resting gently over every surface without change. It feels settled now, as if it has fully taken its place and has no reason to move. The woman sleeps deeply. Her breathing remains slow and even, rising and falling with quiet consistency. There is no sign of waking, no small movement, only the calm presence of rest. The child remains just as still, peaceful and quiet. Their presence blends fully into the stillness of the room, adding a gentle sense of warmth to the silence. Outside, the village remains in complete rest. No sound rises. No movement passes. The land feels still, as if everything is paused together in the same quiet moment. The air remains unchanged, soft, balanced, still. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls hold their shape without shift. The floor remains steady beneath the sleeping forms. The simple objects rest exactly where they were left, unchanged and undisturbed. Nothing feels uncertain. Nothing feels incomplete. Time continues without being noticed. There are no signs of its passing, no changes that mark it, only the quiet continuation of night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, gently held within the calm of the night, where everything continues in a steady, unbroken stillness that feels endless and whole. The night holds its quiet shape, unchanged and complete. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and even, resting gently across every surface. It no longer feels like an absence of light, but a presence of calm that has fully settled in. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing remains slow and steady, like a quiet rhythm that belongs to the stillness itself. There is no movement in her body, no sign of waking, only rest that continues without interruption. The child remains just as peaceful, small and still, resting deeply within the same calm, untouched by anything beyond the quiet space they share. Outside, the village remains silent. No footsteps move along the path. No voices rise or fall. The land rests in a deep stillness that feels shared by everything within it. The air is unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, nothing shifts. The walls stand firm, holding their quiet presence. The floor remains steady beneath everything. The simple objects in a room rest exactly where they belong, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no movement, no sound, no difference from one moment to the next. Time continues, but without form. It does not feel like it is passing. It simply exists, stretching gently forward without being marked. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, wrapped in a calm that feels complete and unbroken, where nothing needs to change and nothing needs to begin, only the quiet continuation of night holding everything softly in place. The night remains deep and quiet, holding everything in the same gentle stillness. Inside the home, nothing has changed. The darkness is soft and even, resting over every surface as if it has always been there. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and steady, calm and unbroken, blending into the silence without effort. There is no movement, no shift, only rest continuing as it has for many quiet moments. The child remains just as peaceful, still and settled. Their small presence rests naturally within the calm, as if the night itself is carrying them gently. Outside, the village is completely still. No sound rises. No motion appears. The land feels as though it is resting fully, without interruption or disturbance. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls stand firm and quiet. The floor remains steady beneath the sleeping forms. The simple objects rest exactly where they were placed, untouched and unmoving. Nothing feels different. Nothing calls attention. Time continues to pass without being noticed. There are no signs of change, no markers of movement, only the quiet continuation of night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains wrapped in a calm that feels endless, where nothing needs to happen and nothing needs to change. Only the gentle presence of stillness continuing forward without interruption. The night continues in the same deep and steady quiet. Inside the home, the darkness feels settled, as if it has fully taken its place and no longer changes in any way. It rests gently over everything, soft and complete. The woman remains asleep. Her breathing is slow and even, moving in a quiet rhythm that blends naturally with the stillness around her. There is no movement in her body, no sign of waking. The child remains just as peaceful, still and calm. Their presence rests gently within the same quiet space, untouched by anything beyond the home. Outside, the village is unchanged. No footsteps pass. No voices rise. The land feels completely at rest, as if nothing within it is awake. The air is still, soft, balanced. Inside the home, nothing shifts. The walls remain steady and firm. The floor stays smooth and unmoving beneath everything. The simple objects continue to rest where they were left, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no difference between one moment and the next. Time moves quietly, without shape or measure. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains fully at rest, held gently within the quiet of the night, where everything continues in a calm that feels endless and unbroken, with no need for change, only the steady presence of stillness. The night remains the same, quiet and complete. Inside the home, the darkness continues to rest softly over everything. It does not feel new anymore, and it does not feel old. It simply is steady and familiar. The woman sleeps without change. Her breathing remains slow and even, a calm rhythm that continues without interruption. There is no movement, no shift, only deep rest. The child remains just as still, peaceful and quiet. Their presence blends into the calm of the room, adding a gentle sense of life to the stillness. Outside, the village remains silent. No motion passes along the paths. No sound rises into the air. Everything feels as though it is resting together, held in the same quiet moment. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, everything continues as before. The walls hold their steady shape. The floor remains firm beneath the sleeping forms. The objects in the room rest exactly where they belong, unchanged and undisturbed. Nothing feels different. Nothing draws attention. Time continues forward without being noticed. There are no clear steps of passing, only the continuation of night itself, stretching gently onward. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains fully at rest, wrapped in a deep, unbroken calm where everything continues in quiet stillness, without need or change, only the gentle presence of night holding everything softly in place. The night continues in a steady, quiet flow. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and complete, resting gently over every surface without change. It feels settled now, as if it has always belonged here and always will. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and even, calm and unbroken, blending into the silence of the room. There is no movement in her body, no sign of waking. The child remains just as peaceful, still and quiet. Their small presence rests naturally within the same calm space, untouched by anything outside the home. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps move along the paths. No voices drift through the air. The land feels fully at rest, as if everything within it has agreed to remain still. The air does not shift. It remains soft and balanced, without change or direction. Inside the home, nothing moves. The walls stand firm and steady. The floor remains quiet beneath everything. The objects inside the room rest exactly where they were left, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no sense of difference between moments. Time continues without being noticed, without shape, without sound. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains in complete rest, gently held within the calm of the night, where everything continues in a soft, unbroken stillness that stretches forward without end, needing nothing, changing nothing, only existing in quiet balance. The night holds steady, unchanged, and complete. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and even, resting gently over everything without disturbance. It no longer feels like something that arrived. It feels like something that has always been here. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and even, steady as a quiet rhythm that does not break or shift. There is no movement in her body, no awareness of anything beyond rest. The child remains just as still, small and peaceful. Their presence blends fully into the calm of the room, adding a quiet sense of life to the stillness. Outside, the village remains silent. No footsteps pass along the earth. No voices rise into the night. The land feels completely at rest, as if everything within it has paused together in the same gentle moment. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls remain steady and firm. The floor stays quiet beneath the sleeping forms. The objects in the room rest exactly where they were placed, unchanged and undisturbed. Nothing feels different. Nothing calls attention. Time continues without being noticed. There are no signs of movement, no markers of passing moments, only the quiet continuation of night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, wrapped in a deep and unbroken calm where everything continues in stillness, without need or change, only the soft presence of night holding everything gently in place. The night continues without change, deep and complete. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and even, resting gently over every surface as if it is fully settled into place and has no reason to move. The woman sleeps quietly. Her breathing is slow and steady, calm and unbroken, blending naturally into the stillness of the room. There is no movement, no shift, only rest that continues without interruption. The child remains just as peaceful, still and calm. Their presence rests gently within the same quiet space, untouched by anything outside the home. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps pass along the paths. No voices rise or fall. The land feels fully at rest, as if nothing within it is awake. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls stand firm and steady. The floor remains quiet beneath the sleeping forms. The simple objects in a room rest exactly where they belong, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no sense of difference between one moment and the next. Time moves forward, but without shape or notice. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains in complete rest, gently held within the calm of the night, where everything continues in a quiet, unbroken stillness that stretches forward without end, needing nothing, changing nothing, only existing in peace. The night remains deep and unchanged. Inside the home, the darkness rests softly over everything, steady and complete, as if it is fully settled into the space and no longer needs to shift in any way. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and even, calm as a quiet rhythm that blends naturally into the silence. There is no movement in her body, no sign of waking, only uninterrupted rest. The child remains just as still, peaceful and quiet. Their presence rests gently within the same calm space, adding a soft sense of life to the stillness. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps move along the paths. No voices drift through the air. The land feels entirely at rest, as if everything within it has paused together in one shared moment of quiet. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, nothing shifts. The walls remain firm and steady. The floor stays quiet beneath everything. The objects in the room rest exactly where they were placed, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no difference between one moment and the next. Time continues without being noticed, without shape, without sound. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, held gently within the calm of the night, where everything continues in soft, unbroken stillness, needing nothing, changing nothing, only the quiet presence of night carrying everything forward in peace. The night continues in the same quiet, steady way. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and complete, resting gently over every surface without change. It feels fully settled now, like a natural part of the space rather than something separate from it. The woman sleeps deeply. Her breathing is slow and even, calm and unbroken, blending into the silence without effort. There is no movement in her body, no shift in her rest. The child remains just as peaceful, still and quiet. Their presence rests naturally within the same calm, as if the night itself is holding them gently in place. Outside, the village remains silent. No footsteps pass, no voices rise, no motion breaks the stillness that is spread across the land. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls stand firm and quiet. The floor remains steady beneath the sleeping forms. The objects in the room rest exactly where they belong, unchanged and undisturbed. Nothing feels different. Nothing calls attention. Time continues forward without being noticed. There are no signs of movement, only the quiet continuation of night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, wrapped in a calm that feels endless and complete, where everything continues in soft, unbroken stillness, without need or change, only the gentle presence of night holding everything quietly in place. The night holds its quiet form, unchanged and deep. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and even, resting gently over everything without movement or shift. It feels natural now, like something that has always belonged and will continue to belong. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and steady, calm as a quiet rhythm that never breaks. There is no awareness in her rest, only stillness that continues without interruption. The child remains just as peaceful. Small and still, their presence rests gently within the same calm space, untouched by anything beyond the home. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps pass along the earth. No voices drift through the air. The land feels fully at rest, as if everything within it has settled into the same quiet moment. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, nothing shifts. The walls remain firm and steady. The floor stays quiet beneath everything. The objects in the room rest exactly where they were placed, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no difference between moments. Time continues without being noticed, without form, without sound. The woman does not stir. The child does not move, and the home remains fully at rest, held gently within the calm of the night, where everything continues in a soft, unbroken stillness that stretches forward without end, needing nothing, changing nothing, only the quiet presence of night holding everything gently in place. The night continues in its quiet, steady presence. Inside the home, the darkness remains soft and complete, resting gently over every surface without change. It no longer feels like something passing through. It feels settled, permanent in its calm. The woman sleeps without movement. Her breathing is slow and even, calm and unbroken, blending naturally into the stillness of the room. There is no sign of waking, only deep rest continuing on its own. The child remains just as peaceful, still and quiet. Their small presence rests within the same calm space, untouched by anything outside the home. Outside, the village remains silent. No footsteps move along the paths. No voices rise or fall. The land feels entirely at rest, as if everything within it has paused together in one shared silence. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, everything continues as it has been. The walls stand firm and quiet. The floor remains steady beneath the sleeping forms. The objects in the room rest exactly where they belong, unchanged and undisturbed. Nothing feels different. Nothing draws attention. Time continues forward without being noticed. There are no signs of movement, only the quiet continuation of night itself. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains fully at rest, wrapped in a calm that feels endless and complete, where everything continues in soft, unbroken stillness, without need or change, only the gentle presence of night holding everything quietly in place. The night remains still and complete. Inside the home, the darkness holds everything in a soft, steady calm. It does not press or shift. It simply rests, as if it has always known this space. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is slow and even, steady as a quiet rhythm that never breaks. There is no movement in her body, only deep rest that continues without interruption. The child remains just as peaceful. Small and still, their presence rests gently within the same quiet space, untouched by anything beyond the home. Outside, the village is silent. No footsteps pass along the paths. No voices rise into the air. The land feels fully at rest, as if everything within it has settled into one shared moment of quiet. The air remains unchanged, soft, still, balanced. Inside the home, nothing shifts. The walls remain firm and steady. The floor stays quiet beneath everything. The objects in the room rest exactly where they were placed, unchanged and undisturbed. There is no difference between one moment and the next. Time continues without being noticed, without form, without sound. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. And the home remains fully at rest, held gently within the calm of the night, where everything continues in soft, unbroken stillness, needing nothing, changing nothing, only the quiet presence of night carrying everything forward in peace. The night is no longer at its deepest point, though it still feels quiet and whole. Inside the home, The darkness remains, but it begins to feel slightly less dense than before. Not in a way that can be clearly seen, but in a way that can almost be felt, like the night is slowly easing its hold. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is still slow and even unchanged in rhythm, as if her rest is part of something larger than time itself. There is no movement, only calm continuity. The child remains deeply asleep as well, still peaceful, fully wrapped in rest, their small presence steady and unchanged within the quiet space. Outside, something subtle begins to shift. Not sound, not motion, only a faint suggestion of change in the air above the land. The darkness of the sky feels slightly less absolute than before, as if it is beginning to loosen at its edges. The village remains silent, but it no longer feels entirely frozen in the same depth of night. It feels like it is waiting without awareness for something that has not yet fully arrived. Inside the home, everything remains still. The walls are unchanged, steady as always. The floor is cool and firm beneath rest. Objects remain in their places, simple and familiar, holding the memory of the day that has passed. The sense of time is still quiet, but it is no longer completely without direction. It gently leans forward now. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. But the night itself feels like it is slowly beginning to release its hold. Not suddenly, not noticeably, but gradually, as if preparing the world for what comes after stillness. The lamp is long gone, but the space it once warmed feels unchanged, as if its presence still lingers in memory rather than light. And somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the sleeping village, the first hint of a coming morning begins to exist, not as brightness, but as possibility. The home remains asleep within the night, but the night itself is quietly beginning to turn. The night continues to soften at its edges. It is still present, still quiet, but it no longer feels as heavy as before. There's a gentle easing in the darkness, like something vast slowly loosening its grip without breaking its silence. Inside the home, everything remains at rest. The woman sleeps without movement, her breathing steady and calm, unchanged by the subtle shift beyond the walls. Her rest is deep enough that even the passing of time feels distant. The child remains fully asleep as well. Small, still, and peaceful, their presence continues to blend into the quiet of the room, untouched by anything outside the world of sleep. Outside, the sky holds a faint change. Not light yet, not color, only a slight thinning of darkness in places so distant they cannot be named. The night is still whole, but it feels less absolute than before. The village remains silent, but there's a different kind of stillness now. Less like suspension, more like waiting. Inside the home, nothing shifts. The walls remain steady. The floor remains firm. The simple objects of daily life rest exactly where they were left, unchanged and undisturbed. Everything is familiar. Everything is still. But the feeling of time has begun to lean forward again, gently, almost imperceptibly. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. Yet the night itself seems to be slowly turning, not ending, not breaking, but easing towards something that has not yet arrived. The air inside the home feels slightly different, not in temperature or sound, but in presence, as if the world beyond the walls is beginning to prepare itself for return. Still, there is no urgency, no change that demands attention, only continuation, only calm, and the home remains within it, resting quietly as the long night begins its gentle transition toward the first breath of morning. The night continues to loosen its hold, very slowly, almost imperceptibly. Inside the home, darkness is still present, but it no longer feels completely uniform. There are faint variations in its depth, as if it is beginning to thin in places too subtle to define. The woman remains asleep. Her breathing is steady, calm, and unbroken. There is no movement in her body, no sign that the quiet changes outside have reached a rest. The child remains just as still, small and peaceful, fully held in sleep. Their presence continues to rest gently within the same familiar calm. Outside, the sky carries a quiet shift. It is not light yet. It is only a lessening of darkness, so slight it could be mistaken for imagination. But it is there, spreading slowly across the horizon, as if the night is gently preparing to release the world. The village remains silent, but its stillness feels different now. It is no longer the stillness of deep night. It is the stillness before morning. Inside the home, everything remains unchanged. The walls are steady. The floor is firm. The simple objects of daily life remain exactly where they were left, undisturbed and familiar. Yet the feeling of time has shifted slightly again. It is still quiet, still soft, but no longer entirely without direction. It leans gently forward, as if drawn towards something just beyond awareness. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. But the night itself feels like it is continuing its slow release, not ending abruptly, but unfolding gradually into something new. The air inside the home carries a faint sense of transition, not seen, not heard, only felt in the stillness. Everything remains calm. Everything remains safe. And the home rests within this quiet turning of time, held gently between the depth of night and the earliest suggestion of what will soon become morning. The transition continues, almost without being noticed. The night is still here, but it feels lighter now, as if it is slowly becoming less dense with each passing moment. Nothing changes suddenly. Everything remains gentle, gradual, and soft. Inside the home, the woman still sleeps. Her breathing remains calm and steady, unchanged by the subtle shift outside. There is no movement in her rest, only deep continuity. The child remains fully asleep as well. Small and peaceful, their presence rests quietly within the same calm space, untouched by the slow movement of time beyond the walls. Outside, the horizon carries a faint, almost invisible change. The darkness is no longer complete in the far distance. It has begun to soften, not into light yet, but into something thinner, something less absolute than before. The village remains silent, but the silence feels slightly different. It is no longer the silence of full night. It is the silence of something waiting gently to begin again. Inside the home, everything remains steady. The walls are unchanged. The floor is firm and cool beneath rest. The objects of daily life remain exactly where they belong, holding their quiet familiarity in the dark. Time continues its slow forward motion, but now it feels more directional than before. Not fast, not urgent, only gently leaning toward the coming change. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. But the night itself feels like it is in its final stages of quiet presence, not disappearing, but preparing to give way. The air inside the home carries that same soft transition, subtle and wordless, like the world breathing in before a new day. Everything remains calm. Everything remains still. And the home rests gently within this quiet turning, where night and morning meet without conflict. Only softness, only continuity, only the slow and peaceful shift of time moving forward. The night is now at its softest edge. It is still present, but no longer deep or heavy. It feels thin in a gentle way, as if it is quietly stepping back without being forced, without resistance. Inside the home, everything remains still. The woman continues to sleep. Her breathing is calm and steady, unchanged, as if she is carried by a rhythm deeper than time itself. There is no movement in her rest, only quiet continuation. The child remains just as peaceful, small, still, and deeply asleep. Their presence blends naturally into the calm of the room, untouched by the slow turning of the world outside. Outside, the sky is beginning to change in a way that is almost impossible to see at first. Not light yet, not morning. Only the faintest softening of darkness at the farthest edges of the horizon, like the world is preparing itself to open again. The village remains silent, but the silence has shifted slightly. It no longer feels like complete stillness. It feels like anticipation without awareness. Inside the home, nothing changes. The walls remain firm. The floor remains steady. The objects within the room stay exactly where they were placed, holding their quiet familiarity in the dark. Time continues its gentle forward motion, not marked, not measured, only felt in the softness of transition. The woman does not stir. The child does not move. But the night itself is now quietly giving way, not ending suddenly, but dissolving slowly into the beginning of something new. The air inside the home feels subtly different, as if it carries both the memory of night and the first, faint suggestion of morning. Everything remains calm. Everything remains safe. And the home rests gently within this quiet threshold, where darkness and dawn meet without sound, without force, only the slow and peaceful unfolding of a new day approaching in silence. The night does not end all at once. It simply thins slowly and gently until it no longer feels like something holding the world in place. Inside the ancient home, everything remains quiet. The woman is still asleep, her breathing soft and steady, unchanged by the movement of time beyond the walls. The child rests beside her, small and peaceful, held in the same deep calm that has carried them through the night. There is no sound inside the home, no movement, only stillness that feels complete. Outside, the first suggestion of morning has finally arrived, not as brightness, not as color, but as a quiet easing in the darkness, a soft return of space and shape to the world beyond the doorway. The village begins to exist again, little by little, as forms emerge from shadow. Not yet active, not yet awake, only present beneath the slow arrival of a new day. Inside the home, nothing needs to change. The walls remain steady, holding the memory of warmth and rest. The floor stays cool and familiar. The simple objects of daily life remain exactly where they have always been, waiting for use, waiting for movement, waiting for another ordinary day to begin. The woman does not wake yet. The child does not stir. And the home remains in its final moment of night, not caught between darkness and light, but gently resting inside the space where both quietly meet. The air is calm, still, soft in a way that feels like completion rather than ending. And as the last trace of night loosens its hold, the world does not rush forward. It simply continues, quietly, naturally, like it always has. And the home, unchanged and steady, rests gently into the beginning of morning, where another day will unfold the same way as all the others before it. Slowly, ordinarily, and peacefully,